I'm going to jump right into our webinar. So thank you everyone for joining us today. Here, I'm going to turn on my light so you can see me a little bit better. There we go. As you can see, our background, or my background at least, is very much attached to the theme of today. So we're talking today with Dr. Molei Wu, who is the team lead for our BrainRobotics division. And you can see from my background here, he is the creator and lead of our award-winning Prosthetic. So I know a lot of you have heard a lot about him before, so we had to make sure that he had a chance to talk to all of you and for you all to ask any questions that you might have. So we've already received some of your questions. We're going to open it up, and I'm going to keep our introductions very short because I know you have a lot of questions for Dr. Wu. So with that being said, today it's going to be very simple. I'm just going to introduce our speaker and myself along with our company and our competition for a very short 5 minutes, so you all know. And then we're going to jump into some questions that you have already submitted to Dr. Wu regarding the NeuroMaker Creative Challenge. And then after that, I'm going to leave us plenty of time so that if you have any questions, we'll make sure that you can ask them live and you can get Dr. Wu's direct feedback. So let's jump right into it. So for some introductions, you've all known me. I've done many of these webinars with you all. My name is Andrew Banish. I've been running different STEM education programs for the past 10 years, the biggest of which was running FIRST in a number of different countries. You've heard my introduction before. I won't say it again, but I'm very grateful to be able to connect you all with our great STEM lineup. And then as you can see in the camera, we have Dr. Wu with us today. So he's the team lead for the BrainRobotics Prosthetics division. So he completed his master's and doctoral degree at the University of Alabama in mechanical engineering. And you may have seen in the video that we had before, his myoelectric powered prosthetic hand won the 2019 Time Magazine 100 Best Inventions of the Year, multiple CES awards, Digital Trends Awards, and the 2019 Red Dot Best of the Best Award. So does that cover everything, Molei? Are there other awards that you won that we don't know about?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the introductions.
Yes. So he's going to be very modest. So he's brought a lot of prestige to BrainRobotics, BrainCo, and everybody here. So we've been very grateful for that. Some of you may have seen the slide. So that's Dr. Wu up there on the right with another one of our great engineers accepting the Red Dot Award. As you can see, our Time Magazine Award, his invention was right on the cover. We have CES awards. You may have seen the slide before. We have plenty of information that we can share after this if you're interested in learning more about that. So that's our speaker's background. Just to give you a little bit of introduction for 30 seconds if you're not aware of what we're doing this year. So this year we're inviting students from around the world to use our NeuroMaker hand. So our base set, so it's a STEM kit that students can build to create different prosthetics of their own making. So we're inviting students from around the world to create their own prosthetics, identify their own problems within the amputee community, and create them yourselves. Submit a submission to us before December 20th, where our judging panel will review these, and we're going to be giving out plenty of different awards. So we're going to have an all-star team reviewing all these projects. We're going to be giving out $4,500 for students to take these submissions up to the next level. We'll be giving out lots of other awards too. So any middle or high schoolers out there who are interested in bringing STEM into the biomedical space, this is your opportunity. So we have our link down there. If you go to brainco.tech NeuroMaker Challenge, you can find everything you need to do to get started. And we're still accepting submissions for about another 40 days. So that being said, we have Dr. Wu here. We're going to jump right into it. We have a couple of questions. So I'm going to jump into some questions that we've received from before, and I'm going to open up the floor. So let's start with our questions here. So Dr. Wu, I think you've had a chance to look at this very briefly. So we have a few students out there from the Vinci Robotics Academy. So thank you, Vinci Robotics Academy. You've been an awesome partner, and you've had some amazing students working with us here. So we wanted to make sure that you had the first opportunity to bring up these questions. So we have 2 student teams, if my understanding is correct, that are working on some projects, one of which is thinking about using a prosthetic with some cell phone applications. Another one is interested in learning more about the daily habits of amputees. So Dr. Wu, you have worked with amputees and this technology for a long time now. Here are plenty of questions that our students have submitted to us. So I'm going to hand you the floor. So if you wouldn't mind going through some of these, talking about the habits of amputees with cell phones and some of their other daily life questions around these, I'll give it up to you. So Dr. Wu, your questions, what can you tell us about these things?
Okay, so I can choose myself.
Sure.
Okay. So I think maybe you start the question from the left side.
Mhm.
The first one, it's an easy one. How long do you usually use the smartphone every day? I think I use it like 2 or 3 hours per day, I guess. And where do you usually put your phone when you go outside?
Oh,
In
they
the
mean,
pocket or hold it?
if you don't mind, Doctor, I think they're referring to amputees. So how long do you think it?
Amputees?
Yes.
I think for amputees, they usually put the cell phone in the pocket, not holding it, and it just makes it a little bit easier. And I think when they're taking it out from the pocket, sometimes they use their the other hand, the normal hand, instead of using the prosthetic hand, because I think it's still a little bit difficult for them to using the prosthetic hand to taking out the cell phone. And how do they use the phone with the prosthesis? So this is quite interesting. They actually using the prosthesis to holding the phone and using the other normal hand to control the device. And for people have like a double amputation, losing both hands, usually they still using one to holding the phone and using the other limb to control device. Because the prosthetic hand, normally they cannot using like touch screen because the finger is not like conductive, so they cannot control the screen very well, and also it's a little bit slippery, so you usually use their name. And I found another question related to that is how do they get phone to unlock? So they usually using like the fingerprint to unlock it, and the fingerprint is still are from their healthy hand, or sometimes they can using their name. If they don't have hand, they can still using the name. The name can still be detected by the fingerprint sensor to unlock it. And currently, a lot of people, I think, they are using the Face ID to unlock it as well. What's the best position for holding a phone? So normally I saw them they're just putting the phone on the table, but if you want holding it, it's just like using this kind of grasp. It's similar to our hands, like holding a phone. It's quite similar. And for the question, what's the features do you spend? So Andrew, is this one to ask me or ask amputee?
I believe these are all for amputees.
7.
Yes, if you notice any trends.
Amputees.
Hmm.
I don't know. Each person is different. Some are use a lot of their time to watch videos, and some of them are using a lot of time to on the social media. I think it's just different for different people. And for number 8, I don't see them using the voice control often. I think it just seems a little bit weird, like when you control device with your voice. Even for me, I don't use it often. And for the other side of questions, so I have been working with different people with different kind of amputation. So some of them have the amputation because like some accidents, and some are because to like some kind of disease that have to catch their limbs. And normally it's like the amputation is below the elbow, so they can still have very good signal strength from their muscle in order to control the device to move. And second question, what kind of prosthesis do I use now? So I don't use prosthesis. For the amputee, they normally using, I think, I do know some people, they are prefer to using a hook because it's quite simple and very robust. And I saw the trend is that a lot of people start using bionic prosthetic hand, which looks like our human hand, and you can control each finger motion, and it's much more like a human and much more powerful than the traditional device. And for question 3, do you wear prosthetic device every day? So again, for amputee, I think they normally wear it every day, each time like a few hours, like 2 to 3 hours. And sometimes maybe when they work or study, they will wear it longer. Sometimes they are not wear it. It's when they do something else, like for fun. Because I think a lot of people still used to without prosthesis. So since they start using our device, they start to use it more and to improve their daily life. Question 4, do you wear prosthetic device? I don't wear a prosthetic device because I have both hands already. Yeah. Question 5, what are the most common tasks that you have difficulty doing in your daily life? I think for amputees, I don't see like some difficult task. The few people I know, they are after the amputation, they are quite used to the life, so they can do a lot of things without problem. But I do see like they can use the prosthetic hand to do a lot of sports stuff, like play ping pong or do some other activities, which you cannot do it without like a prosthetic hand. How do you write using utensil? So this part, they are normally using the prosthetic hand to holding the utensil, using this kind of grip. The thumb is on the side of the hand. We call it a key grip, so it can grasp like a spoon or some other like a fork using this. I think this is the main usage of our prosthetic hand for the question 7. How do you handle using touchscreen devices? So currently they are using some kind of glove. So they put in the glove on the hand, and the unique feature of the glove is on the tip of the glove, it's conductive, so it can work with the majority of the touchscreen devices. And that's how the touchscreen work. You need to have a conductive device, and then when your body touch the device, they are kind of like in the same circuit. So when you move it around, you're changing the capacitance and to control the device. And number 8, how do you type on keyboard? So they can do the typing, so just moving the index finger and then do that. But normally I don't see them using like a computer often. Normally they're using smartphone. How do you eat food with the prosthesis? Again, it depends. So some people prefer using prosthesis to holding like a spoon or fork to eat. Some people simply just get rid of the device using their normal hand or using the two limbs together. I think these are because a lot of people have amputation for a long time. They're used to these daily tasks. So when they have a device, they might need to have a little bit time to use to it. And I do see a lot of people start using the prosthetic device for these activities. What is your dream feature that device can have? So I think one of the feature I think will be very helpful is it can give you a touch feedback. So in other words, when the user using the device, they can feel the object they can detect what the shape of the object, what's the temperature, and what kind of material, either it's a metal or glass. So when they close their eyes, they can use the hand to detect the surrounding environment and objects. So it's more like a human hand. So I think it can improve the functionality of the device a lot. And also you have the connection to the device. It's not just like a tool, it's more like your body part. Yeah, I think I have answered all of the questions, right?
Yeah, that's great. I think just to recap a few of the things that you mentioned there that I thought were interesting. I've actually seen this with some of the amputees that we've worked with. So when people are unlocking their phones, right, you mentioned, just to make clear, so even if amputees are missing their hand, they still have part of their limb left. So they'll actually use that part of their limb to control their phone or whatever else it may be. I have seen that. I think you brought that up pretty clearly. And then yeah, just to bring up a few other things that I think will be relevant to some of the projects that our students are doing. So I think a lot of these questions come down to finding the biggest problems that an amputee would need solved by a prosthetic. It actually sounds like amputees do a pretty good job adapting to their new situation without using a prosthetic. So I think the one last question I'd like to ask you, Dr. Wu, before we move on to the open discussion is, like, what do you think the key things a prosthetic should solve for an amputee rather than just doing a lot of cool things? Like, what are the real problems to solve?
Right. I think so. Like, I think the most fundamental thing, I think, still the function, and the function it could be a lot of things. I think a lot of things they can do without the hand for sure, but if they can do the same thing within the hand and make it much easier, it's gonna be helpful. For example, like when you're drinking water, it seems easy. So for people losing both hands, they need to use both, like, kind of limb they have to drinking the water. But if you have a hand, you can use one to drinking the water. You can use the other hand to do the other things. And also, like, I think that's something very difficult for people have a double amputation. For example, it's very difficult to open a door if you have a knob. You cannot using the limb to kind of open it, and the hand can help it. And it applies to a lot of things when you have a turning operation, because you don't have two hands. You want to open a water bottle, you cannot do it. You want to open like a Coca-Cola, you cannot do it. So a lot of things you need to have a prosthetic hand to do it. And if you look at these things, I know some of them because I kind of stay with them for a while and just observing how they live their life. There are a lot of things kind of difficult. For example, when you want to washing, and a lot of the bottles kind of hard to use. They cannot open it without the hand. So, like the toothbrush kind of thing, if you without two hands, it's quite difficult. So they need to use in hand. I saw a lot of things. I don't realize it's difficult. I think it's just common, but in reality, a lot of things are really, really difficult. Just like the examples I show you. Yeah. Like
okay.
I think when you're eating or living or even working, just so many challenges there. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, and I think that this is really beneficial for our students working, is that there really are some simple motions that we take for granted that are quite challenging for an amputee. So, well, I think that's a wonderful start. Well, thank you, Dr. Wu. Well, then let me open it up to any of our listeners then. So we have some time now. If you have any additional questions, if you have any other, like whether it's for the NeuroMaker Challenge or for working with prosthetics in general, maybe there's something else you want to know about Dr. Wu's academic story. Like, clearly bringing a product to market that won that many awards means that you have to have a lot of special skills. So I'll let people take a second to think about any questions they might have. If there's anything that you'd like to ask, feel free to put it into our chat box and our Q&A box. This will, I'll need to figure it out, but I'd be happy to open up a video feed for anybody who wants to ask a question directly too. So I'll start off with some of the questions that we're receiving from our group. So the first of which, Dr. Wu, can you see it too?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, then I will read the first question aloud, and then if you wouldn't mind responding. So from Mr. Lean, so what is the normal responding time from the muscle to the device? I'm assuming this means your DEXIS prosthetic, Dr. Wu.
So we have the machine, I have to say, so we have the device to measure the signal from the muscle, and we also have a processor to calculate what's the motion they want to do, and then we send a command to the hand. So the time from the muscle, from our brain, we want to do this thing, and to the hand actually move, it takes like 100 milliseconds, which is quite small. We cannot notice about it. Yeah.
Great. And then you'll see a follow-up question. Is the responding time one of the biggest hurdles for amputees to adapt the prosthetic?
I don't think so. The responding time is quite fast. I think one of the biggest hurdle is that for people certain amputation, they kind of forget how they using their normal muscle or limb, so they need to adapt to how to imagine they have a hand and trying to move it. That might be hard for some people to just regain the feeling, the control of the device. They need to learn it when they move the device and recalibrate their brain and do it again. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Great.
Great. So those were good questions. So leave it open. Anybody else? So I'll let people think of some more questions too. But I think while we're waiting for some additional questions to come in, Dr. Wu, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about, so you were one of the first employees, if I understand correctly, to work out of our office in Boston for BrainCo. What does it take from your point of view to go from an idea of helping amputees with this prosthetic to having a real product? So what was that story like, and what challenges did you face along the way?
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I think it's a good question. I think the idea is kind of simple, really. It's just kind of difficult to make it work. So once you have the idea, I think the most important thing is to kind of act on it. Once you start acting on it, I think you are succeed for a lot, and continue to iterate. I think one of the important things for dividing products, you need to know what's your target user. Obviously, for amputees, what's the ideal use case, what kind of functionality or application they care about. So you need to have a lot of this information, either from a literature review or from the real users. So once you get all this information, you will compile these things to like a technical requirements, and then you develop the product, you test it, and you're testing with the first user and get feedback and improve on it. So it's a kind of iterative process, and you learn along the process. And usually you will not design something perfect, and that's how the thing gets improved. So each time you're working on these things, you will get improvement. And for a long time, more than 3 years, we get this thing working well. Yeah. And the challenges, I think, is a lot of coming from you need to working with a lot of people, like prosthetics, amputees, and you need to get really their perspective of how these things work, not just from an engineering perspective. Trying to get things work and as simple as reliable as possible, not over complex things. you know, yeah. I saw some questions from the message, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, feel free to. So I'll read it aloud. So is there any prosthetic in the market that has Bluetooth or Wi-Fi function built in to help amputees to control the smartphone devices or computers?
I think not yet. So there are Bluetooth and Wi-Fi function on the device, but it's not used to control the smartphone or computer. So the majority device on the market, they're using Bluetooth to transmit information between your prosthetic hand and your cell phone. So the cell phone can selecting different gestures and program the hand. There isn't like a application that you can use in your prosthetic hand directly control your cell phone. I think it's a good idea. It might be interesting to explore this, that you can directly control your cell phone without your hands touching the device, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. That could be an interesting project idea. Oh, we have another question too.
Yeah.
So are there any products that use soft materials? I believe that might be referring to soft robotics.
Yeah. So I think for prosthetic device, there isn't soft materials. The glove is soft material, but usually it's like a rigid body, like plastic or metal. So I think one of the reasons we are now using soft material is that it's not very robust. It's gonna be broken soon, and it's like consumable material. But I see soft material being used for like exoskeleton, which people are creating because they don't want to have a rigid structure to put on their bodies, so they try to use soft material. But for prosthetic hand, we don't see it right now. Maybe in the future. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I've been seeing more and more attention towards soft robotics these past few years.
Right.
All right.
Its benefit is like it's soft and it's lightweight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a great segue too. Like, has weight been a big consideration for the design of the prosthetic? Has the weight of the prosthetic hand become a very important, like how does that factor in?
So actually the weight is one of the important things you need to consider, because when you have the hand, you have a long arm and everything is putting a lot of weight on their muscle, and they will feel tired. So we usually when we design the device, we trying to reduce the weight through several methods, like using light material or using lightweight material, using strong material to reduce the weight. Yeah, it's very important, and they usually consider it as a important factor when they choosing the device. If it's too heavy, they will not using it. Yeah.
That makes sense. Nobody wants to carry something very heavy all day.
Right.
All right, great. So it is 5:30. Are there any last minute questions before we wrap up here? We got time for maybe one more. Aha! Right in the last minute. So we have one last question. Have you seen any amputees play video games with prosthetics?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think a lot of amputees would like to play video games, like VR games. I saw people like using the prosthetic device to play some video games. like on the cell phone or on TV. Yeah, I do see them doing it. And I also see some cool stuff like you can put in a device on your arm to measure the EMG signal and directly to control the character movement. Yeah, saw that. Yeah. Great.
Great. Yeah, what actually, so one thing that we've played around with here in the office and we can give people access to, we actually have a racing game that you can control with like a physical and a virtual one that you can control the speed of a car with your brainwave signals. So that is,
right.
Yeah. And they're not quite the same as a prosthetic, but it's an interesting application of those signals that you just mentioned. So, all right, great. Well then, this brings us right past 5:30. I want to thank everybody who joined us today to ask questions to Dr. Wu. Dr. Wu, before we wrap up, do you have any words of advice for the students in our challenge or for anybody else listening out there who wants to get involved with prosthetics in the future?
Yeah, great. First of all, I think I think everything becomes to like interest. If you have interest on these things, you can start to get something simple and start getting working. And when you have working on it, you will explore a lot of difficulties, and then you can start to conquer this problem, and then you will learn when you're doing it. I think it's a great thing, and I think you can always learn these things from online, since a lot of things are kind of free. You can watch some videos or get some open source project to start on it and working on it. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, so there's plenty of stuff to try out there. We hope that you can experience some of this through our challenge as well. So I will wrap it up here. So thanks again, Dr. Wu, for joining us. Thank you, everybody else, for being on this call. This is being recorded. We will put it up on our social media channels so that you can see it. And in case you have any other questions, feel free to contact us on our website. We'd be happy to answer them. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Yes, and any other questions that come up. So Dr. Wu, we'll leave it there, and I think I'll have some other questions that I can answer for everybody else later. So, all right, bye-bye, everyone.
Great.